The budget, or not, it wasn't called budget. What is the actual name of this thing? The American Rescue Plan. That was the piece of legislation that got passed a couple of months ago by budget reconciliation. Not a single Republican voted for it. And it's about $1 trillion. In fact, it's I think they might have been a little more than that. And 200 million of it, or excuse me, 200 billion of it was direct aid to the states. So the Democrats passed this legislation to stimulate the economy, keep people above water, give people another $300 a week on their unemployment, all this kind of stuff. And there was $200 billion going to the states because state governments' revenues were down, because tax collections were down, because businesses were shut down. And a lot of people were unemployed. And unemployed people don't pay income taxes. And when, restaurants and stores and things are shut down during a pandemic, they're not making a profit, and so they're not paying income taxes to the states, and so the states were hurting. But they built into this $200 billion grant to the states, they built in a provision that says, you may not use this money for giving tax cuts to rich people. I mean, it literally says that. You may not do this. But they're doing it anyway. I mean, it's just breathtaking, right? The Arizona legislature just passed a $1.9 billion income tax cut designed to benefit the wealthy, with 93% of the benefit going to the top 20% of earners and over half going to the top 1%. This, again, from Julia Rock's piece in today's dailyposter.com. Ohio passed Republicans in Ohio. I should preface this always with the Republicans, because that's who's... Ohio passed $1.7 billion in tax cuts, over half of which will flow to the top 5% of earners, and over a third of which will flow to the top 1% in Ohio. And Wisconsin, and we'll see if Governor Evers, vetoes this, Wisconsin passed more than $2 billion, because the Republicans control their legislature there because of gerrymandering. Wisconsin passed more than $2 billion in tax cuts, about 3/4 of which will go to individuals who make $100,000 or more. And now the big question is, will the Treasury Department step in and enforce the law? And, sadly, the Treasury Department has indicated that they are not going to aggressively, enforce this in the past. And frankly, I think this is a test. This is the law. So, to the Biden administration and to Janet Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury, are you going to enforce the law? Are you going to, stop the money to these states? And I believe that's the remedy. If they use that money to hand off to the billionaire Republican donors in those states, because that's what's going on. You've got, in Wisconsin, in Ohio, in what was the third state? In all three of these states. Let me get back to my article here. Arizona, was it? Yeah, Ohio. Yeah, Arizona. Arizona, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Now, you've got Republican legislators who are taking millions of dollars in aggregate from wealthy people in their states to keep them in power and to keep them getting them reelected and pay for their campaigns and subsidize their lifestyles, essentially. And the way that they're paying back these donors is with giant tax cuts. So is the Treasury Department, will the Treasury Department have the courage to enforce this? Stay tuned. I'll bring you up to date on whether they do or not, but this is rather bizarre, I would say, if nothing else.